The silence in my room was overwhelming. Pieces of sticky notes, printed interface mock-ups, handwritten API diagrams, research notes, and sketches covered the entire carpet like a puzzle only I could solve. I was 26 years old. I had worked for months to earn this one chance. The final interview for my dream technology internship was the next morning. I could barely sleep that night. The recruiter's voice kept echoing in my head. Your portfolio is extremely strong. This could define your career. It was not just an internship. It was my only way out of my parents' cage. My chance to survive without their constant permission. My path to finally becoming my own person. I carefully slid each printed section of my portfolio into a folder labeled with clean aesthetics. Everything I knew, I had learned from free online tutorials because I could never afford formal courses. My hands trembled with excitement. I kept whispering to myself, I might actually make it. I might finally start my life. Then I heard her footsteps in the hallway. My mother never knocked. She never respected boundaries. She never believed I deserved any privacy or independence. She pushed the door open without pausing. What is this mess? She said, disgust dripping from every word. It's my portfolio, I answered carefully, for the final interview tomorrow. She stepped into my room as if walking through garbage. Interview for what? Now you're pretending to be a tech girl? She laughed loudly. Where do you get these fantasies? I tried to ignore her. I tried to stay calm. I tried not to trigger her anger. Mother, please, don't start. This is really important to me. She turned her head so slowly I swear that look could turn anyone to stone. Important? You? She mocked. You can't even keep your room clean properly. Do you really think the tech industry is waiting for you? I stood up slowly, folder in hand, my heart sinking under the weight of her voice. Mother, this is my future. Let me try, just this once. She snatched the folder so fast I couldn't react. Mother, no. With one violent motion she tore it open like worthless paper. The pages ripped and scattered across the floor like broken wings. She destroyed my mock-ups, my sketches, my documentation. Everything I had built for months. Every sacrifice of sleep, social life, and sanity, vanished in seconds. She bent down, grabbed handfuls of pages, and tore them again and again. You have no future, she spat. You don't deserve one. You think you're special? You're a joke. I tried to pick up the pieces, but she grabbed the back of my shirt and yanked me so hard I fell. Then she took hold of me and dragged me across the floor. My scalp burned, my eyes stung, my hands shook uncontrollably. You are nothing, she whispered in my ear. You exist to do the chores in this house. Nothing more. You want a future? How funny. I screamed for her to stop, but she laughed like she had finally found her weekly entertainment. My father stood leaning against the doorframe, watching silently, enjoying the slow destruction of my confidence as always. When she finally let go, I crawled toward the torn papers, trying to gather them as if I could magically fix everything. I wanted to save every piece. I wanted to pretend she hadn't just destroyed my only path to freedom. She stood over me, satisfied and victorious, as if she had just prevented a crime. You're not going to that interview tomorrow, she said coldly. Get up and clean this house. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My chest felt empty and numb. But inside that numbness, something began to form, quiet, strategic rage. I stayed on that carpet almost 40 minutes after she left, not crying, just staring at the pieces like evidence of a crime. Every torn page proved how far she would go to keep me small. That night I didn't sleep at all. At 3 a.m. I hid my laptop under the blanket and rebuilt everything from zero. My scalp still hurt, red marks remained on my neck, my hands trembled on the trackpad, but I kept working. Before sunrise I had digitally reconstructed half the portfolio. I had no printer at home and knew my father would delay any trip to FedEx until I missed the interview. So I did something I had never done before. I didn't tell them I was still going. At 6 a.m. I slipped out of the house silently in the same hoodie from the night before. I walked almost 3 kilometers until the first bus came, clutching my laptop like a baby. The cold air stung my face, but I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt alive. At the FedEx print center the young man saw the stress on my face and said, "Take your time, don't worry, if you need help with formatting, I've got you." That simple human kindness almost made me cry. No shouting, no insults, no accusations, just basic respect. I printed everything again, crisp pages, precise colors, even more professional than before. I bought a new folder and organized it right there with steady hands. When I arrived at the interview building, I no longer felt like a victim. I felt like a survivor walking into battle. The interview team asked why my prototype links went beyond the original scope. I didn't tell them the full story. I refused to give it power. Instead, I said, I rebuilt my entire portfolio in less than 6 hours because when I say I want something, I mean it. The lead engineer's eyes widened in surprise. The director leaned forward as if she had never heard anything like it from a candidate. We discussed back-end structure, cloud architecture, why certain user flows fail emotionally, and real production challenges. I answered every question with the strange clarity that trauma gives when you have no safety net. As I left, the recruiter followed me into the hallway. You're going to go very far in this industry, she whispered. Some people have talent, others have hunger, you have both. Just then my phone rang. It was a message from my mother. If you still think you're going to that interview, you can pack your things and leave this house forever. She didn't know the interview was already over. I stared at the message for 20 seconds. For the first time in my life, her threat didn't scare me. It freed me. I walked down the stairs with a steady heart and a quiet realization. That internship wasn't the only thing about to change. My entire life was. When I reached the bus stop, I didn't sit down. I read her message again, the threat, the challenge, the ultimatum she thought would break me. Pack your things and leave this house forever. She said it as if she were giving me permission to breathe. I took a screenshot immediately because this time her threats would turn against her. When I returned home, she was standing at the door like a prison guard waiting for an inmate. She crossed her arms. Well, did you obey or disobey? As usual? I walked past her without a single word. She hated silence more than confrontation. In my room, I started packing everything that was truly mine: laptop, clothes, personal items, drawing tablet, USB drives, notebooks, hard drives, everything without their money on it. She followed me down the hallway, screaming, "You think you can walk out like a real person with a real career? You're a joke, a useless burden. Nobody wants you." I said nothing as I closed the suitcase. She tried to grab me again, but this time I moved back so fast she missed. I looked her straight in the eyes and said calmly, "You will never drag me again." She froze. Her power no longer worked. Her control was broken. My father came out of the bathroom and scoffed. "She'll be back in 2 weeks begging. They always do." I walked past both of them with my suitcase as if they were strangers in a hallway. I didn't slam the door. I closed it softly. That silence hurt them more than any scream. The revenge had begun. 2 days later, I received an email. "Congratulations, you have been selected. Offer letter attached." I stared at it as if the future itself had walked into my room and said, "Let's go." I signed it immediately. Then I called a free legal advice center. I explained the physical pulling, the destruction of my work, and showed the message telling me to leave. They helped me file for legal emancipation and independent resident status, protection that stopped them from claiming financial guardianship, insurance access, or blocking my move. That was my revenge, cutting every legal tie they ever had over me. No emergency contact, no medical access, no right to give work references, no power over my life. I went further. I submitted a damage report to the internship program coordinator, explaining my portfolio had been destroyed by a parent and requesting digital-only validation. They flagged my file as unsafe family environment and blocked any personal information from being shared with external family members. No more fake calls pretending to be me. No property claims. No contact with my supervisor calling me unstable. Every door they used to control me was now closed. 1 week later, my sister called from an unknown number, crying and screaming that mother had a breakdown because I disappeared. Father had punched a hole in the garage wall. The whole house was falling apart because for the first time I simply left. No explanation. No closure. No begging. I said nothing and hung up. On my first official day at the internship, they gave me my own workstation. 2 monitors, an ergonomic chair, and a badge with my name. I touched it carefully. No one could break this. No one could drag me again. During orientation, the director said, "If you do well this summer, a full-time position comes right after." My future was no longer a joke. My future was mine, and my mother had no place, no voice, no hand, no control over it. Her punishment was watching me succeed from the outside in silence, while inside I finally lived free. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.